It's been a night of hectic negotiations to try and end India's 34 years of nuclear isolation, and the night hasn't ended for diplomats in Vienna at the nuclear suppliers. After a marathon 9-hour session overnight on Friday, they decided to meet again this afternoon at 2:30 p.m. India time. Negotiations held on day 2 were inconclusive. There's been no consensus as yet. Austria and Ireland still remain anti-waiver, but Switzerland is now on board. India will make changes in the draft waiver, possibly on the issue of testing. Now, the negotiators for the US have been engaging with smaller countries opposed to the NSG waiver for India. The waiver document has been through 2 sets of changes already. 6 countries had raised objections at the start of the meeting on Thursday. By late Friday night, it was down to Austria and Ireland that still wanted changes to the NSG waiver document. The 2 countries say India must commit clearly to not conducting any nuclear tests, and the document must spell out what kind of automatic reprisal would follow if India were to test. India has rejected any attempt to add a clause on testing to the waiver document. However, External Affairs Minister Pranab Mukherjee's statement on Friday that India was committed to non-proliferation and a unilateral moratorium on nuclear testing went a long way in converting several skeptic countries over to its side. As we speak, the negotiations have made no headway, but sources say the fact that talks haven't broken down yet indicate that all 45 members of the NSG hope to evolve a consensus soon. Now, according to NSG rules, the waiver must be approved unanimously for it to be adopted. The statement issued by External Affairs Minister Pranab Mukherjee said India remains committed to a voluntary unilateral moratorium on nuclear testing. The statement underscores that India will not be the source of proliferation of sensitive technologies, including enrichment and reprocessing transfers, and it will work towards the advancement of non-proliferation. India will also work with the IAEA in implementing the India-specific safeguards. US officials who've been trying to convince NSG country of India's commitment to non-proliferation said the statement made all the difference. So what remains a sticking point, really? Earlier we spoke to Austrian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Peter Lonsky, who said that Austria was positive about giving India the waiver, but negotiations could take more time.
Austria, like many other countries in the group, fully understand the importance for India of this nuclear deal. We also very much appreciate the significance of India being able to meeting her energy needs. Minister for External Affairs had spelled out in a statement earlier today that the ongoing efforts should strengthen the international non-proliferation regime, and that is exactly the kind of objective with which Austria and a number of other countries have gone into the NSG meetings. There should be a result that means or reflects a net gain for the international security. And I think the constructive spirit that's been shown by the participants should enable us to achieve such a result. Many countries, particularly the smaller ones in the group, their security depends on treaties that make up the international security architecture. Among them, NPT and accompanying instruments such as the export control agreements decided on in the NSG. The efforts that are going on right now are to include certain auxiliary measures that would complement the existing draft. As you know, international conferences and international meetings have all sorts of means to extend time. I'm sure there would be ways and means to extend that by a few hours without kind of breaking the rules that had been set in advance.
Our correspondent Sanjay Suri is tracking all those developments in Vienna. Let's get in a word from him. Good morning, Sanjay. What's the buzz you're picking up from there? Clearly, the fact that talks haven't broken down is a good sign.
In fact, that is the only certain sign that we have, because there had been a fear that the second round would simply end on the second day as scheduled without any movement forward. That is not the case. We've had talks going late into the night, in fact, into the early hours of the morning, and reconvened on Saturday, which is of course vacation time, holiday time. The fact that the talks are continuing itself is positive, and it's an indication also of the very strong push coming from the US that the whole process should be taken towards some consensus and conclusion in this round itself, rather than be postponed to another round later in September or even later.
All right, and no indications of a third draft so far?
Well, we've had, of course, the second draft that has been presented for this NSG, and there is no immediate movement towards a third draft. The talks are trying to bring convergence on issues and understanding of various aspects and dealing with the concerns raised without necessarily going into a third draft, because India is not going to be in a hurry to produce a new draft because seems to be very little room for further adjustments. So this actually is the issue under negotiation, in what way and under what terms a new agreement and convergence could be reached, but there is no immediate third draft.